Joining me on the Neil Wilkins podcast today is Chris Schutrups. Now, Chris is a serial entrepreneur in hospitality and the financial services sector, the owner and founder of many businesses, many initiatives, many projects, and a whole host of things that we're going to get deep into. And we're here today to talk about the topic of overcoming self-doubt in business and in investing. Now, for me, this is a really pertinent time to be having this conversation because there are a lot of people out there who are very uncertain in very uncertain times. So we're going to go into what you can do about it, things that you can say are kind of opportunities in what for some people might say challenging times, others see opportunities because they have a very different mindset. So we're going to explore a whole host of things, both emotional, philosophical, probably sort of philanthropic and other things too. So welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you for having me. Nice to see you.
Yeah, well, this is a big build-up, isn't it? I mean, I guess I've promised a lot there. I've raised the bar. I've set it really high.
There's zero self-doubt right now based on what how you've introduced me, for sure.
Yeah, and now as we start the conversation, we'll probably start self-doubting ourselves. And I'm sure I don't doubt you because obviously you've got a whole wealth of experience in all of these facets and all of these areas. For anybody who doesn't know Chris, do you want to give a little bit of a backstory just to kind of set the scene and kind of whet the appetite as to kind of what's brought you really to here today?
Yeah, of course. I'm UK based. I started my career as a stockbroker in the city. I worked then in banking, in retail banking for NatWest, leading sales team on the retail side. And then I went across into mortgages. Regulated mortgage advice, and I started the business in about 2011 with just me and a dog in a bedroom, and self-doubt was definitely right at the top of what I was thinking at that point. And if we fast forward 13 years later, the business now that is run by my wife, Nicola, will speak to over 100 customers every day who come organically into the top end of the funnel. We'll have over 1 million unique visitors a year to our website, and we'll do hundreds and hundreds of mortgages each month. And we have some specialized brands, our main brand being the Mortgage Hut. We have police mortgages where we deal with 23 of the UK's police forces and federations. We work alongside via our airline mortgage shop brand, British Airways, Virgin Atlantic and other airlines as well to support their staff. So that's our mortgage business. I've also in that time been out in the Middle East running the largest mortgage business there from Dubai, owned by the equivalent of Rightmove or Zillow, if you're in America, of the Middle East, the equivalent there. And then I suddenly has somehow got an unhealthy hobby of acquiring hospitality businesses. And so we have some great businesses, pubs, restaurants, bars, in hospitality, plus investments in other businesses. So directly or indirectly, we have, across our actual businesses that we own, we have over 400 employees. We obviously have a lot more for our investments. So a bit of a wide-ranging portfolio, really, if I'm honest, Neil.
Yeah, isn't it? And what a great insight. I mean, taking aside the whole kind of financial considerations and opportunities just for a minute, just in terms of the insights and the kind of intelligence that you can glean from so many different angles and facets. I mean, when a lot of us kind of think about the macro situation here in the economy, particularly in the UK right now, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of kind of resistance. There's a lot of, I guess, low levels of confidence, I guess, in some areas of, taking decisions, both either personally or professionally. But you must have so many kind of, fingers in so many pies, but so many kind of different ears to the ground, so to speak, such that, you almost would be getting, a sort of a first glimpse of many things that are going to be likely happening and playing out in the not too distant future. I mean, do you become almost like a sort of a research house in yourself?
Well, I think, as you say, we have a lot of data within our own businesses. We work with a lot of national and international partners and stakeholders, so we get a lot of insight from them. And that's little bit about when we talk about self-doubting and doubt and confidence. Really, the number one thing that I know that we have to make decisions on is long-term data and where we think things are going. Especially in the UK, you talk about the macroeconomic side of stuff. We only have to think about the journey that our economy has been on with like Liz Truss's budget. If I think back to pre-Brexit, I was trying to make decisions across the businesses, trying to work out how is Brexit going to affect our businesses? Is it going to affect the housing market? Is it going to affect consumer confidence? Then we go into COVID, something that, my mother predicted a pandemic for years and years, saying, the plague, and every 100 years, there's this. And then it comes along and, you're making decisions based on really gut and trying to consider your long-term approach. And I guess that's easier to do as time goes on, as you're better capitalized, because if you have a bit of breathing room to make these decisions, generally the larger businesses are like turning ships. They do take time. And ultimately, when you're making decisions across all the businesses, you do have to remember that people put a lot of responsibility and trust in you, your employees, your colleagues, to a certain extent, your businesses that you do business with, in making good decisions. And so that means that you need to not completely, poop your pants as soon as the first bump in the road comes. You have to be able to take a step back and sometimes have a bit of patience to see where things are going to lead to, really.
It's interesting when you talk about data, because I'm a huge advocate of kind of evidence-based decisions. That's not to say that I would procrastinate and not make a decision if I didn't have a complete data set. Sometimes you have to kind of balance the gut feel and that sort of intuitive kind of nature that you have with some of the evidence, but it kind of feels like you need a sort of a little bit of both, really. What's your view in terms of that balance? Is there an ideal kind of balance in decision making, do you feel?
I think there are probably three things, which is data. The older the business is, the more data you have, the more data you can pull on is really, really important. I think you then need to also understand your customers well. To understand what they're looking for, you need to speak to your customers. You need to understand what they're feeling, how they're feeling, what they're looking for from the experience of your business. And then you need to use your experience that you have in running businesses and look at the information that you have available, so merging that data with your customer information. It may be economic data, it may be internal data from your business on seasonal trends, where people are dropping out of funnels and stuff, if it's an online business, and then taking that and marrying that with your experience, and sometimes you've just got to make a reasonable and rational decision. And sometimes you're not going to get it right, but the secret to getting better in business is, as time goes on, hopefully you're making more right decisions than wrong decisions. Should be the journey that you're on. If you're not, you might want to rethink what you're doing or get someone else to make the decisions. But generally speaking, 99% of business people will get better at making decisions. And you know what? There's not many decisions in business that you make, and if they go wrong, they're super fatal, is the truth. It might hit your targets, your goals, your KPIs, but the secret to a good business leader is not running a business when times are easy. It's about being able to make those, if you make a decision and it doesn't go right. I've always led teams and I've said, look, follow me. If I haven't got this decision right, give me 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. If I haven't got it right and it doesn't work, I will untangle it myself. You don't have to. And, that gives a lot of credibility to your team to see that you're willing to take the ownership. And, as I say, in the rare occasion that we make mistakes and don't get it right, that's fine. At least it's better to try something and it not work than try nothing at all and have that paralysis of what if, or if it doesn't go right, how am I going to feel? What's it going to look like? Am I going to look stupid? Who cares? Is the reality. Because no one innovated, no one drove a business forward by sitting still and sitting on their hands.
Does this apply as equally to big decisions as to kind of little day-to-day decisions?
I think so. I think when you're looking at really big decisions, you've just got to know your fallback position. You've got to understand where are you gonna, cut your losses. Where are you going to say this doesn't work? On the same account, you'll make big decisions, and you've also got to give yourself some time. When you implement stuff, sometimes things don't have the immediate effect you want, but it's about being able to sit back and just look at the data, understand what's going to tweak it. I in the business that I worked in the Middle East, my team within the group that was $1 billion group were the fastest moving. And that's because I led from the front. I used the power of the people around me who were all significantly more intelligent, more competent at their jobs than I was, and I gave them the ability to come up with ideas. And you know what, if we tried something and it didn't work, it really wasn't an issue. At least we knew it then for the next time. But yeah, I would say bigger decision. It's easy for me to sit here and say, yeah, make a really big decision, and if it goes wrong, don't worry, because ultimately it's not my rent or mortgage that needs paying, it's the person making them. But what I would say is, having some checks and balances, taking a before you do something, if you make a decision that you're going to do it, take a step back and say, what does it look like? What's the expectation of what's going to happen here? Where do we cut our losses? And where do we hold on nerve? And can we tweak it? Can we make it work? We are implementing a new system in one of our businesses at the moment, and it isn't working quite how I wanted it to work. But I'm working with our integration teams and our tech teams to say, oh, okay, well, just because it didn't work like that straight away doesn't mean we're just going to throw it in the bin and say, well, never mind. Let's just keep trying to tweak that and iron out the things. And I think that's the secret of, I can imagine the world's true innovators, whoever you look up to, whether that might be Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, whoever it is, I'm sure that they didn't create a product and it went perfectly, straight away. But yeah, I think it does apply to big decisions, to answer your question, but I do think that you have to have a little bit of safeguarding in there to ensure that you don't burn the whole house down through misfounded optimism as well.
I want to pick up on something you just mentioned there, which I think is fascinating for us to kind of hear your take on it, because for somebody running a whole host of successful businesses, I guess a lot of people looking at you, Chris, would be thinking, well, you must know everything about everything. You must know how all the systems work, how all the projects work, how all the initiatives are going to play out and stuff, because, you're leading all this stuff. Whereas actually what you've just said there is, yeah, but I know actually not a huge amount, but I've got I'm going to paraphrase you, but I've got experts around me. Is that one of the ways that we can kind of overcome this whole kind of self-doubt in decision making and start to make good decisions by just being confident in those we've got around us?
I think there is an element. We're all entrepreneurs and business owners, predominantly are control freaks, and we know. I was reading a book the other day, and it said that if you expect someone to do it as well as you do, then it's never going to happen. You should expect them to do 80% as well, and then they'll have done an incredible job. The truth is, I've always tried to surround myself with people who are significantly better than me, and then a lot of the stuff that I do that isn't exceptionally hard, because I'm not super competent at all of the things around me. But what I do is I have amazing people who are bought in. My job within most of our businesses is to be the chief storyteller, to understand where we're going, what are we trying to achieve, what is that big fat goal that we want to do. And that is relaying it and communicating it to the teams within the businesses, and showing them where we're trying to go. And, if I look at some of our integration specialists, I will sit and I will speak to operational staff, managers within businesses, and say, how does this flow work? And I'll say, what out of interest, why do we do this? And it's like, oh, well, because the system that's how the system's built, or we've always done it like this, or X, Y, and Z. And I've said, and so I have some really clever people around me who I can say, actually, I want the system to do this and this, and because it's better for our customers, it's frictionless, and then what will happen is someone who's very technical will take my, I guess, creative business idea and execute that so that it works within our business itself. And so, you can't really achieve your full potential as a business or as a leader within a business without really knowing that you need people who are incredible around you. And those people, I try when I record podcasts or when I speak at shows, I try and highlight that, I am here taking a lot of the glory of how great we do across all our businesses. But make no mistake, that is our whole team that make that happen. I'm the guy that gets the pat on the back and everyone claps and says how great I do. But actually, I have just an incredible team behind me that do incredible things. And generally, I don't have the same challenges with a lot of our teams that others do, because my managers and my leaders who sit underneath me understand the vision of what we're trying to achieve, and they're effective at communicating that downwards. And we use some really basic ways of communicating to our teams, like Loom videos. I will record a Loom video which I will send out to X team to sort of just let them know, well done, you're doing a great job, I love what you're doing, I understand what you're doing, this is what we're aiming for, this is what we're pushing together. And I might record it on a Sunday night, sat here, and I might schedule it to go at 8:30, so when they're sat at their desk on Monday morning, probably a little bit deflated after a busy weekend, either out having drinks and food or with their children or whatever it may be, they have my energy and passion, and hopefully they think, oh, this is why I'm here today, and it gets them rocking and rolling.
That's great. I mean, it just feels like it is. I love the thing that you said there about being a storyteller. It's your role to storytell, to kind of evoke that passion that you feel for the idea or the vision that you have. And then that's how it plays out. One of the challenges, though, surely, though, by giving away this kind of, how could we put it? I guess responsibility for the doing of some of these things must be that you have to give up some control. Doesn't that actually add to the doubt? Because even though the doubt might not be there in yourself, of can I achieve this goal? Can I achieve these objectives? If you give away the control to somebody else, surely that just kind of divests the responsibility, but it can't take the doubt away, surely. Doesn't that add an extra complexity in?
No, I don't think so. I think, the reality is that I am one man, and I can only achieve so much. And there will be business owners who listen to this and they're thinking, bloody hell, I've got to invoice this and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. What I understand is that I will create systems and processes so I still have oversight. So, for example, in a business, I might get a KPI dashboard, which will show me the company performance. I'll get it every week. It will show me all of the performance, all the data from different sources put together, and it will break it down into the granular level that I want. So, I still have oversight. I don't just say, okay, well, John, you're going to run this business for me, and this is the vision, and good luck. Here's the keys to the car. Please don't crash it. What I do is I say, John, this is our vision. This is our business plan to achieve the vision. This is our budget. And this is the culture that we're aspiring to have. And then, I'll do regular, depending on the business, it may be weekly, it may be monthly check-ins where I can either see the operations, the KPIs, what we're achieving, make sure, in a business, the KPIs could be income, it could be, profit, staffing, customer experience, marketing stuff like top funnel leads, conversion rates, but I try and create a bit of a traffic light system so I can see, okay, where are we in a good place? Where aren't we? My wife runs some of the businesses with me, so we try not to cross over our roles and do two lots of work. So again, it's about, our vision, as you can probably imagine, is relatively well aligned in that we talk about it all day, every day. And so, some of our businesses, My wife runs and makes all the decisions and based on what we're trying to achieve. In other businesses, we'll have managers or will be invested in, and nothing goes. There is headwinds, there are challenges, but you can generally smell it out pretty quick if you have the data. So what I would say is, I don't delegate and just say good luck, please do this job well, because I know we're all human and we all have fatigue and good and bad days and good and bad weeks. What I'll try and do is put systems and processes in which I will then have my assistants creating reports for me, and I can then have a look at them. And the reality is, if the team members, the managers, the operational managers are doing a good job, I can send them a message to say, well done for being awesome. You're doing a great job. I can see that so they know that I'm there, and hopefully they appreciate my praise and my thanks for their hard work. Likewise, if I see a business and I'm like, oh, bloody hell, we're 50% off our income target so far year to date, I can quickly jump on that and understand, because actually in our businesses, what we don't have is, generally speaking, I'm relatively confident in saying we don't have people who don't care. So actually, if it's not going right, it's not through will. Generally speaking, they may be a bit demotivated if they're off target, but generally it's to do with they're cutting a corner, or it's their skill, or they're missing something, or they've not got the tool that they need to achieve it, or a department within the business aren't one department's, say, blocking the other unknowingly. And so I will introduce systems, checks and measures, systems and processes to ensure that if I do delegate it, it's still done to maybe not the standard that I might aspire to do myself, being an obsessive entrepreneur business owner who wants perfection, but to a standard well above where our customers would expect us to be, for sure.
I love what you say there about one of those themes there that goes beyond the technical capabilities of the people who work in your businesses, this whole idea of caring. Because if they're going to care potentially at pretty much the same level as you, that must give you so much confidence that together we can actually work this through. It almost doesn't matter what the issue is, because I know you care enough to flag it to me if there's an issue, or to try and figure it out yourself and then come back to me with a potential solution or recommendation. That must kind of take a lot of the doubt away, because you've got almost like-minded souls.
Yeah, and that goes right the way back to the storytelling element of what is the purpose? Why are we doing this? Why are you doing it? What are we trying to achieve? And generally speaking, the message is relatively consistent across any business, which is we want to offer incredible, exceptional customer experience, because our happy customers are going to be returning customers. They're our best marketing strategy. And so, what I will always say to team members across all the businesses is the one thing I'm absolutely uncompromising on and will not forgive is when we let our customers down. When they don't get that experience, and people are human, and we will make mistakes and we will learn from them, and we'll also put those mistakes right. Coming from a background in financial services, financial service regulation in the UK for sure is amazing. And they believe that the regulator will say that customers should never be disadvantaged. And if they are, you put it right. And that is what any business should do, whether they're regulated or unregulated. If your customer has a bad experience, if I look at, say, one of our restaurants that's just won Best Restaurant at the British Restaurant Awards, if someone comes out for their first date, or their mum's birthday, or an anniversary, and they spend 50, 100, 200 pounds on an experience, because that's what they're doing. They're not coming out for a meal, they're coming out for an experience, and we don't get it right, 100% they'll be back in that restaurant on me, going through that again to see what we deliver, what is expected, and what the experience really is, and that is the same as what you would do if you were in a financial services business and you made a mistake. You put it right, you would say, I haven't got, and that's really, really important. So, enabling people, empowering people, and also, as I say, I'm uncompromising in expecting incredible experience, but I also am fully aware that we employ human beings in our businesses, and they get it wrong sometimes, and they don't get it right. And again, that's, you say about, it must be, you have an element of confidence having those people. Well, I do, because I know that they care. They might make mistakes. They might, because you're only as good as your worst employee. That's and you have to think about the mum test there, whether it's in a regulated business, whether it's a non-regulated business, whether you're in a bar, a restaurant. The reality is, if you wouldn't let your mum deal with them, then you probably shouldn't have them in your business. Is the truth. And it doesn't matter whether you find it hard to recruit or don't. One example is in our hospitality businesses. Some chefs historically have had a reputation, if we think of Gordon Ramsay, of being a bit rude and shouting at people and screaming. I do not allow that in any of our businesses. My rule is I do not shout at people, so my team members will not shout at each other. And, if we think about a country pub, say I own a country pub, which I do, I don't want a chef shouting at a 17-year-old waiter or waitress who have made a mistake. That's not, as a business owner, you aspire for better. It's having standards and
So I've got to ask the question. I just love the energy and the passion, Chris, that just the way you're describing this. There's a real kind of groundswell of enthusiasm and optimism, and it comes through in leaps and bounds here. What I've got to ask you the question though is, and I guess on behalf of lots of people listening to this, who they're either aspiring entrepreneurs and would love a number of businesses, but can't even think where to start with that, or as in many cases, they might be a marketer, for example, juggling lots of different campaigns, and they're listening to you talk, Chris, and you've got multiple businesses, probably more businesses than they've got campaigns and projects on, and yet you've got 24 hours in your day and they've got 24 hours in their day. How do you do it? How do you juggle so much stuff and still yet have energy to be able to do more?
Well, it's a good question, and I do my one wish, if I had a genie, apart from having some more wishes, would be having some more time in the day, because it is busy, it is consuming, for sure. I sound a bit like a broken record. I have some really good assistants who sit beside me, and what I generally try and do, and we had a conversation before we came on this podcast, is I will generally try and look at what systems and processes I can introduce into a business to allow me to scale, and where my time. The reality is I learned relatively early on, you go from a shift of thinking, I'm an entrepreneur I can only do this, no one else can do it, to then employing teams, to then a bit of a realignment, to I got to a place where I suddenly thought, holy moly, I'm the blocker of this. I'm the one that's causing all the problems. And so generally speaking, when I try and set up processes or within businesses, I will create, we talked about like the KPI dashboards that I have and the reports and the information, but I will generally try and make sure that the processes and the systems and the businesses themselves operate without me being part of that process, because I'm inconsistent, because I'll be recording a podcast one moment and then I'll be, doing a meeting with someone else. I'll be having a lunch. I'll be, I was presenting awards last week. My life is not consistent, so I need to give the jobs and the tasks to people who can make it their life to do it consistently every time. And so, systems and processes, valuing your own time. The old saying, if you get paid $1,000 an hour, don't do £100 an hour job, and whatever you bloody do, don't do a £10 an hour job. It's just, and it's understanding that, and it's trying to make sure that it's just doing one thing at a time. Again, you can get paralysis in thinking, bloody hell, my to-do list has got 50 things on and they're all going to take me a day, and you end up making no progress. And the first thing you've got to accept is nothing's perfect. Okay, nothing's perfect. You run a business, you're doing your best. Just take one thing off your list at a time. Just give it a go, create a process. Loom videos, which we've already discussed, are really good to be able to give team members to, one, talk through what the task is, explain the reason why people are doing it, but also they're able to look back. If you outsource a job, you can give the video to one of your colleagues and say, look, this is how you do the job. Now, some people are going to watch the video once and be able to do it perfectly. Other people are going to need to watch that video 10 times. But that's going to be way easier than them calling or WhatsApping you or emailing you 10 times asking you, oh, can you remind me how to do this? Because they can just refer back to that. And so, just being organized and trying to structure your time. The reality is that I try to spend as much time as I can at this desk, because when I'm out in the car or when I'm out having lunch, I have great fun talking about business, because it's a lifestyle a little bit like this. But actually, I also don't achieve the bigger things that I want to in the business as well, or the businesses, should I say, as well.
So are you brutal at prioritizing them? Because it sounds like if you have 1,000 things potentially to do, I mean, I'm a huge advocate of Pareto Principle, 80-20 rule. I've seen it play out so many times in so many different situations. Do I follow it every day? No. Am I aware of it? Yes. Should I be doing it? Yes. Are you really, really brutal as an entrepreneur?
I think I'm significantly more brutal than I was before. But you go on a journey as well. Because if I take the mortgage business as an example, when I started it in 2011, actually all I wanted was a name and a number of someone who I could do a mortgage for. Then the business grew, and actually what I wanted was a name and a number for someone who could give me 10 customers a month. Then 100 customers a month, maybe a real estate agent, maybe, a house builder, and now the business will generate 100 or so inquiries every day. Actually, I'm best sitting at a desk and working with our digital and marketing teams on how we tweak those funnels and the conversions. And so I think the answer to your question is maybe not black and white, because time goes on, and, in my business, anyone's a potential customer, and they have a family member and friends. And that's the same with all of the businesses. So there's never wasted time, but it's looking at how effective you can be. So one of again, looking at processes, okay, where I get it wrong is when I book stuff into my own diary. Because when I pass it across to my assistant, who just manages my diary, and her job is to make sure that I'm in the right place, that I don't waste time, that I'm prepared for the meeting in advance anyway. But also, if I do Zoom meetings, I use like an AI note taker that records the meeting and takes notes. And then she has access to that to see the action of all the things that I promised that I'll do that I probably will forget by the time in the next meeting. And she'll either take those tasks or make me do those tasks and allocate time in my diary. Where I end up, at a dinner at a bar at 11 o'clock at night in central London, is when I've managed my own diary and I've said, I'd love to come to that. That would be great. So am I perfect? No. Am I better than I used to be? I think you do have to be, I think as time goes on as well, as when you have as many people in the business and as many challenges and as many things that you're trying to grow and achieve, you do have to be able to say, I have to switch my phone off at some point tonight, because otherwise my wife's going to divorce me. And I have young children, and not young children, but teenage children. So I think I'm a lot more disciplined, but I think we could all be better. And I think that you use the word awareness. I think as long as you're aware and trying to keep on track with that, I think you're probably doing it better than 90% of people anyway, in my opinion.
It's really interesting, because if I ask that question to a whole host of different people, you get so many different answers. But I love your honesty there, Chris, because I mean that kind of says it how it is. And clearly for you, it's been a journey. I mean, I guess it continues to be a journey. Just coming back to our kind of original question, I mean, this whole thing about kind of self-doubt. Do you have self-doubt now? Having created and run and managed, these successful businesses, there's clearly a lot of people now dependent upon you in the decision-making and that vision setting. Do you still have self-doubt yourself?
So I would say no, not really. I'll pick up on a couple of points really. I would say, first of all, if we talk about bigger businesses, when you are running businesses that are generating money and making profit, you don't have the same level of pressure that you do when you are losing money or not making money and you will sometimes make bad decisions because of the pressure that you're under. So generally speaking, you start as an entrepreneur, if you're like me, where the business bank account is your bank account, and when it's got some money, you'll transfer it for the rent and the mortgage, and then when it doesn't, you'll be like, oh God, where am I going to find it? And then you'll pay it back and you move it around. The level that we work at, I don't have access to the bank accounts. I don't really. I look at the accounting reports to see the profit and loss and where we're at instead. So I'm able to make longer term decisions and better decisions. What I would say is it is natural, especially if there are people listening or watching this where they're sat thinking about they're in an employed role, or they might be working under a company as a contractor, self-employed, and they're thinking, oh, but is it worth the risk? Or what if? And actually that self-doubt, I would say, links to ego, because we don't want people to think we failed. Oh, how embarrassing! Especially, your listeners and viewers are based across the UK and the US, and actually, I travel to the US 10 times a year. I'm lucky enough that I do some business there as well, and I can tell you, Americans, you haven't done business till you fail. Whereas in the UK, failure is a very negative topic to talk about. And in the UK, we have this element of what will people think if we don't get it right, if it fails, if it doesn't work. And the reality is, people really don't give a crap about you, is the truth. Today's news is tomorrow's fish and chip paper, is the truth. It's more your ego, your worries, what you're thinking. And actually, I think you asked me, do I have self-doubt? No, because I'm not scared if it doesn't go wrong, if it doesn't go right, sorry. At the end of the day, if I have tried something and I think it's a good business idea and it commercially sounds like a good idea and customers think it's a good idea, and you know what, if I go into it and it doesn't work, well, that's business. That's fine. It's cool. It doesn't reflect badly on me. No one, or I hope not. I don't think many people are going, oh, wow, Chris Schutrups, what is he doing? He's terrible at business. I think people would generally say, and you are going to go in, I've done it before, I'll do it again. You'll go into a business that you think will be slightly different than it is, or there'll be nuances to the market, niches that you haven't thought about, the way they operate is different, but you're better trying something and saying, you know what, and generally speaking, you can sell something on, you can exit it, you can untangle it in an ethical way, and you can back out and say, you know what, that didn't quite work how I thought. But more times than not, you go into something, you realize, because most businesses will be a success, is the truth, if you're willing to put in the effort. And it makes sense. What is business? I buy a bean for £1. As long as I can sell it for more than I bought it at plus my costs, then I've made a profit. And that's really as simple as business is, whether you're a marketing consultant, whether you're doing paid advertising as a marketing business, an SEO specialist, whether you're selling handbags online, whether you're MOTing cars, servicing Mercedes cars, running a market stall, running a financial services business, running an Italian restaurant, whatever it is, that's the equation, and that's it. And hopefully you factored in your time as well into that. So, I think every single person who starts a business has a lot of self-doubt, for sure. Self-doubt, ego, what if, as you make more decisions, and first of all, as you see the success, but also as you do have failures and you go, actually, that wasn't that bad, it's not a big deal, you get back on your bike, then I don't think I do have, my biggest challenge over the last couple of years has been saying, and linking back to your previous comment, is saying I can't do everything. I can't profit in every business, I can't to be in every business, I can't invest in every business as much as I'd want to, because actually I only have a set amount of bandwidth, time, energy, and my colleagues behind me I can only scale out processes if I'm doing one a week, as I described, at a certain speed. That's it.
Yeah, and there's the reality, isn't it, really? I think, a lot of us would be thinking, yeah, it sounds, sort of really exciting and really kind of demanding, probably in equal measure. But yeah, there's a certain reality of time, of resources, possibly of ambition, possibly of technical capability, because you clearly have technical capability, even though you're very modest, Chris, about the whole, oh, I surround myself with experts. But there's probably something within you, isn't there, that just almost allows you to be able to do this stuff, almost gives yourself self permission. Is that a way that you might sort of think of this? Is like you give yourself permission to be able to fail or to be able to take chances? Is that something that you feel is kind of part of you?
Well, I think I've had a change over a period of time where I actually only do stuff that I enjoy and I feel passionate about. And if I don't, if I own a business even that's profitable that I don't have passion for, I'll dispose of it. Is the truth. If it gives me too much headache, or I just doesn't get me going, so to speak. And it is, we're in a great world now. Your viewers and listeners are consuming content, and I watch YouTube videos and podcasts and listen to things, and actually all I aspire to do is to take one thing from each thing that I listen to or watch. And so do I have technical capabilities? I think I probably have a good understanding of how a lot of things will operate and work across the businesses and the industries that we're in. But I also, like every person listening to this, have more information at my fingertips than we could ever consume in a whole lifetime. And so it's about being able to giving your, we talked about time management and 24 hours in the day. I will spend the first hour of my day without my phone turned on, and I'll do something that I want. It may be reading the Financial Times. It may be watching a YouTube video about digital nomads that travel because I enjoy traveling and working remotely. It may be about, cold email marketing outreach that's Alex Hormozy's doing, stuff like that. And I'll watch what I enjoy and consume that information. Um, but I don't. The reality is, I don't think on myself as being an expert in anything, but I'm also aware that I know a lot more than most people, because there is a big gap between knowing nothing and being an absolute expert and thought leader in something. And if you move that needle along just a little bit, you're quite a lot further ahead of your peers and competitors than maybe you would think. So yeah.
So it's almost, are you advocating just go for it? So if somebody's a kind of, they're employed at the moment, they're reasonably good at what they do, but they have this burning ambition within maybe a side hustle to kind of take that next step, but that next step is that biggest step they're probably ever going to take, which is potentially moving from a full-time role where you're working for somebody else's dream into something where, yeah, okay, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
A lot of us have been there. A lot of us have kind
Yeah.
of had to take that very first step, and it's a big one. You've got to want to go for it. You've got to feel the passion enough to be able
Yeah.
to do it. What would be your, if there was kind of like one sort of thing of advice you could give them, what would that be?
Well, it would actually be just do it. I think the reality is that in most things, including scaling and growing businesses, you have to take one step back to take two forward. Okay, but I once read a study that asked, I think it was about 1,000 people who were on their deathbeds, what their biggest regret was. And the unanimous answer really was regretting not doing things. And so, I always think to myself, oh, if I was unfortunate enough to die tomorrow, okay, I've pretty much done everything I wanted to for many years. If I want to travel somewhere, I will. If I want to go and eat at a restaurant, I will. If I want to buy a business, I will. If I want to start a business, I will. And so my advice would be just do it. What a lot of us tell each other is, oh, it's not the right time for me. It's not the right time. Well, I'll tell you something. 99% of the time, it's never going to be the right time for you. So stop telling yourself that, and either accept that you're never going to do anything apart from sit there and dream about it, or do it. That's what I genuinely believe, and I'm an advocate of that. I haven't done university. I dropped out of college in the UK. But I was a stockbroker. I've been a bank manager. I've been in the police. I've run I've been second in charge of $1 billion tech business. I run a portfolio of businesses. If someone like me, I'm not a genius. I don't come from money. I lived in a council house. If I can do it, anyone can. And the biggest limitation for all of us in anything that we do is our own inhibitions and our own beliefs. And so, exactly why I'm not sat here with a six-pack with, huge bicep arms is because in reality, I don't allow myself to do that. Because I'm worried about failing at doing that, or I don't want to put enough effort in to get the output that's going to be required there. And so, the thing that stops people with businesses, the reality is, if you're sat there thinking, okay, I've got a great business idea, but I'm in a stable job today, in most economies in the world, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to do that, you're going to fail. Maybe you're going to end up with a bit of debt, a bit of credit card debt, but it's very unlikely you're not going to find another job. There are not many industries in this world where there are more. In the UK and in the US, there are not many industries, where you have significantly more applicants than jobs available. There are some, for sure there are some, but in most there are not. And so the worst that happens is you do it, it doesn't work, and you go back and you go back to your old job. And you know what? Who cares? Because at least you've tried.
Well, there's the closing statement, Chris, if ever I've heard it. There it is. There's the learning, everybody. What a journey. It's just so exciting. I think anybody listening or watching this now is probably thinking, oh my word, now Chris has really put me in this really awkward position, because now I've got to go and have that conversation with my partner and almost get permission, or I've got to now go and see my boss tomorrow and say, look, the time has come, I'm going to do this now.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to reach out to you, because obviously, they may well be looking to make an investment decision, which is possibly looking for the mortgage. And so they want to be obviously connecting with you, or they want to connect with you just to really sort of pick your brains over a business investment that they might be looking to do. Is LinkedIn the best place to connect with you?
100%. So Chris Schutrups, I'm on LinkedIn. I manage it all myself. As you can see, this is a passion of mine. It's a lifestyle. You talked about journey. I'm hopefully at the start of my journey as well. I've got a lot that I talk about. I've got a lot of things that I've done. But in reality, I'm also hoping that I'm on a journey that is for bigger and better things, as we all aspire to be. So, if you want to connect, if you want to speak, if you want to share stories, or just follow my progress, LinkedIn is for sure where you'll find me hiding.
Brilliant. Chris, this has been such an honor to, get an hour of your time today, because, obviously with all the things you're juggling, this has been a luxury. I bet you don't give an hour to many people. So, I feel very privileged
it's been a pleasure
for getting so much time.
Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it.